Shalum and welcome. Welcome to the White Rose Family Channel. If you're tuning in for the first time, my name is Symmanayah, and these are the words I'm compelled to present before an awakening set-apart nation. To those who are drawn by the Almighty Yahuah, to Yahusha, the name that represents His Word, as written in John 6:44. My brothers and sisters, these words I am compelled to present to you for examination, for growth, for maturity, and prayerfully to draw you closer to the Almighty Father Yahuah in Yahusha's name. And I say in Yahusha's name because the name Yahusha represents the embodiment of His Word before us. It represents the virgin birth. It represents Him walking among us, His Word walking among us. It represents the sacrifice and the resurrection. And if you read and study and seek to discern the life in the scriptures, you will see in John 14:26 that Yahuah sent His set-apart spirit in Yahusha's name. For when we say Yahusha, we identify the plan that Yahuah laid out for our restoration, for our salvation, for our life. But before I get into this segment, I want to say this, that the views expressed in these messages do not necessarily reflect the views of the owners, managers, shareholders, and or sponsors of this media platform. With that said, my brother, my sister, I want to get into this segment talking about meeting family. Meeting family. Yashar'al, oh Yashar'al. End times are here. There are so many people that speak strongly of the scriptures, the 10 Commandments, the laws, and the statutes. But how many among us who speak so adamantly, so strongly, so passionately about the scriptures, how many of us understand that our family are those who seek to do the will of the Almighty Father, period? Sure, there is the siblings, the what one would call blood relatives. But I submit to you, O Yashar'al, there's a family that goes far beyond that. And it is representative of those who seek to do the will of the Almighty Father, those who are drawn by Him, those who have been saved by Him, those who seek to do His will. Meeting family. Yashar'al, my brothers and sisters. Please forgive me. My brothers and sisters. Either we take this walk sincerely with all belief, or we don't. And as end times prove that in the midst of all the chaos, the confusion, the civil unrest, the murders, the mistreatment of the innocent, out of all that is happening, my brothers and sisters, we must begin to lean into the realities of true set-apart family. Have you defined your true family? Are you stuck in the sibling pool or the blood relative pool? Are you stuck with looking at these individuals as a priority over your set-apart family? Do you understand that your set-apart family, our set-apart family, we are the priority in representation to one another, in service to one another? I have 2 siblings that are still alive, but I don't speak to them as much. We are separated by what we pursue as it relates to the will of the Almighty Father. Is it painful? Indeed. But my focus, my time and energy is to serve the Almighty Father, to pursue what He has ordered, what He has defined, who he has defined as my family. There are those among us who may not have been raised in a two-parent household or by our parents. Or we may have been raised in so many different ways and may not have experienced true love. Yashar'al, my brothers and sisters, end times will prove we have entered into a time where we must recognize set-apart family and the love that is necessary for binding us and bringing us closer to one another. It's time, my brothers and sisters. It's time to ask ourselves, do we truly believe what we say? It's time to discuss our expectations of the scriptures as it relates to meeting family, the set-apart ones. You see, if there will be a final exodus, which I believe it will be, before the physical return of Yahushua, then that means a coming together. If we're going to witness the 144,000, as mentioned in Revelation 7 chapter, before the physical return of Yahushua, that means there's some coming together. Yashar'al, or Yashar'al, are we prepared to examine one another and witness the love of Yahuwah flowing through us one towards another? For this is what we should expect from the family of Yashar'al. Let's visit Matthew. Matthew chapter 12, verse 46 through 50. Do we believe these words? Or do we think this is all just a fad? Can we see the life and the realities of what's being said here? Let me read. Matthew 12, 46 through 50 reads, "And while he was talking to the crowd, see, his mother and brother stood outside seeking to speak with him. And one said to him, 'See, your mother and your brothers are standing outside seeking to speak with you.' But he answering and said to the one who spoke to him, 'Who is my mother and who are my brothers?' And having stretched out his hand toward his taught ones, he said, 'See, my mother and my brothers. For whoever does the desire of my Father who is in the heavens is my brother and sister and mother.'" Are we prepared to understand what that means? What is required of us? It would be wise to be mindful of these words as well, my brothers and sisters. Come with me to Matthew chapter 6, verse 32 to 34. Let us grow to agree with the life in the scriptures, that we may love each other with the love that the Almighty Father has given us, with the understanding of his instructions that are provided to us. Let me read Matthew 6, 32 to 34. It says, "For all these the nations seek for, and your heavenly Father knows that you need all these." But this is what I wanted to bring your attention. The Mashiach is quoted as saying, "But seek first the reign of the Almighty One and his righteousness, and all these shall be added to you. Do not then worry about tomorrow, for tomorrow shall have its own worries. Each day has enough evil of itself." And many people think that this saying, don't think about tomorrow. That's not what he's saying. He said, don't worry. You see, we are to walk filled with the Spirit. We are to walk through his guidance, his direction. We are to walk in set apartness, my brothers and sisters. Not worrying, but identify the plans, the instructions, the orders that come to us to accomplish the things he desires of us. My brothers and sisters, we will face some extreme challenges regarding meeting family and accepting one another? Because our initial knee-jerk reaction would be, I don't know you. I've never seen you before in my life. You don't know me. But we must understand we are joined together as one by the power and might of the Almighty Father Yahuah that comes to us in Yahusha's name. By His word, we are family who seek to do His will. There are those among us who will face discipline in a more severe manner, and some a discipline that may not be so harsh. But all in all, the discipline is to refine us, to draw closer to one another, so that we can say, I know you. You are my brother. You are my sister. Meeting family. How many of us are in a camp, a community, a fellowship, a group, where the discussions have been surfacing? Let us prepare to meet the stranger that we do not know that is part of our family. Let us prepare to receive other parts of the family, this set-apart family of Yashar'al, both Hebrews and Gentiles made one by Yahushua Mashiach. How many are discussing how to examine, how to vet, how to examine, how to identify the brother, the sister, the family member? Let's visit these words in Matthew chapter 10, verse 34 through 39. Come with me there. Come with me here. To Matthew 10, 34 through 39, for it reads, do not think I have come to bring peace on earth. I did not come to bring peace but a sword. For I have come to bring division, a man against his father, a daughter against her mother, a daughter-in-law against her mother-in-law, and a man's enemies are those of his own household. He who loves father or mother more than me is not worthy of me, and he who loves son or daughter more than me is not worthy of me. And he who does not take up his stake and follow after me is not worthy of me. He who has found his life shall lose it, and he that has lost his life for my sake shall find it. You see, Yashar'al, true family, the love that is required, can only be obtained by the Almighty Father. It is through His word, through Yahusha, His guidance, His instructions, through His discipline and our obedience and worship, that we learn to grow closer to Him. And in growing closer to Him, we should be and will be able to grow closer to one another. One expectation is that we should prepare to face individuals, my brothers and sisters, who demonstrate true love for one another like never imagined. We will discover those who earnestly desire to worship and obey the Almighty Father Yahuah, who comes in Yahusha's name, His word. For it will be these, or those, or us, who will be able to adapt and adjust to one another as we realize how much of a family we are to one another. Yashar'al, are we family? Are we talking to one another? You see, there's a lot of time being consumed on them and they, gossips, backbiting, or what the wicked one's doing. How much time are we spending vetting one another, examining the scriptures, seeking the life in them to draw closer together, where we may be in such a position that it is a love that we never thought could exist. We can grow into family as we grow into maturity and understanding what's expected of a brother, a sister, more than we can imagine. So much more Yashar'al, Yashar'al. As extreme humbling times come, we will seek to be with those who truly treat us as a brother or a sister. We will truly desire to be with those who are not going to betray us and sell us out. As humbling times come, we will learn to appreciate family and the need to grow closer to one another. It would be wise, my brothers and sisters, to begin having discussions on meeting family, the set-apart ones, true families. Discuss your choices with relatives to set apart expectations. In other words, let your siblings, your cousins, your uncles, your aunts, your grandparents, your grandchildren, let them know that you love them as Yahushua has given you the love to love them. But your priority, your true family, your whole family is representative of those who do the will, who seek to do the will of the Almighty Father, who are drawn by him to his word, Yahusha. This is not a game. It's not a fad. It's not some mystical myth. We must, O Yashar'al, begin to prepare to know how to meet family, how to engage family, how to work with family. Yashar'al, my brothers and sisters, end time will prove we must begin to be more careful of what position we take and with whom. Let us choose wisely. For soon and very soon, what is needed to be fitly joined together will become more clear. True discernment, my brothers and sisters, you hear me talk about it often. True discernment is when we witness the Spirit of Yahushua making things known. Consider the life in these words as an example of what could happen. What possibility lies before us in order to draw closer together as family? In Matthew 9, verse 1 through 8, I read this to you, my brother, my sister. It says, and entering into a boat, he passed over and came to his own city. And see, they were bringing to him a paralytic lying on a bed. And Yahushua, seeing their belief, said to the paralytic, take courage, son, your sins have been forgiven. And see, some of the scribes said to themselves, this one blasphemes. And Yahushua, knowing their thoughts, said, why do you think wicked thoughts in your heart? Knowing their thoughts. I say to you, I will present the case that Yahushua, knowing their thoughts, knowing what they're thinking, seeing what's stirring in their hearts, I submit to you that I will present the case that we as vessels of the Almighty Father, we who have been joined by Yahushua HaMashiach, by the word of Yahuwah to Yahuwah, through Yahushua, in the name of Yahushua, we who are alive and are part of a set-apart family, he who sees and knows the thoughts of others can and do at times reveal them to us, make them known to us. He goes on to say, but in order for you to know that the son of Adam possesses authority on earth to forgive sin, he then said to the paralytic, rise up, take your bed and go to your house. And he rose and went to his house. And when the crowd saw it, they marveled and praised the Almighty One who had given such authority to men. I want you to understand this, my brothers and sisters. Not only did Yahushua say, it's quoted as knowing their thoughts. Matthew wrote that Yahushua knew their thoughts. It was confirmed by what happened. And the paralytic rose up. The authority was demonstrated. What do you think the authority that the Almighty Father has given us? What are your expectations and authority that we have to manage these vessels to press closer into one another as true set-apart family? It would be wise to discern how the Spirit of Yahushua works with us, and in us, one towards another. Take note to these words as I continue, my brothers and sisters. 1 Corinthians 3:16 and 17. Hear these words, O Yashar'al. 1 Corinthians 3:16 and 17 reads, Do you not know that you are a dwelling place of the Almighty One, and that the Spirit of the Almighty One dwells in you? If anyone destroys the dwelling place of the Almighty One should destroy them. For what dwelling place of the Almighty One is set apart for destroy him? For the dwelling place of the Almighty One is set apart, which you are. Yes, my brothers and sisters, which you are. He goes on to say in 1 Corinthians 6 chapter, verses 17 through 20. 1 Corinthians 6, verse 17 through 20 reads, And he who is joined to the Master is one spirit. Flee whoring. Every sin that a man does is outside the body. But he who commits whoring sins against his own body. Or do you not know that your body is the dwelling place of the set-apart Spirit of Yahuah, the set-apart Spirit, who is in you, which you have from the Almighty One, and you are not your own? For you were bought with a price. Therefore esteem the Almighty One in your body and in your spirit, which are of the Almighty One. The power, the authority, the abilities to recognize family, the strength to recognize family. Trust and believe. For out of discipline, my brothers and sisters, we will learn how to identify our true set-apart family, how to get close to our set-apart family, understanding the love that is required will be a part of growing close in this set-apart family of Yashar'al. It might seem like I'm just saying set-apart family, set-apart family. It's easy to say these things, but do we understand the battles? Just as the scripture talk about the flesh war against the spirit, my flesh war against the spirit, your flesh war against your spirit. Together, your flesh and my flesh will war against our spirits. It's a battle. But once we understand the oneness, the unity that the Almighty Father is refining us to demonstrate, we will understand the value of family, the need to work together. Soon we will begin to realize we need to be moving closer to one another as end times ramp up. My brothers and sisters, let us ask the question, what follows after our great sacrifice or offering? Come with me as I read Romans 12, verses 1 through 5. Romans 12, 1 through 5 reads, I call upon you, therefore, brothers, through the compassion of the Almighty One, to present your bodies a living offering set apart, well-pleasing to the Almighty One, your reasonable worship. My brothers and sisters, some translations say a living sacrifice. What follows after that sacrifice? We say we present ourselves as a living sacrifice before the Almighty Father Yahuah in the name of Yahusha? We seek to do his will, and it stops there? Do you think it stopped by just saying obey the 10 Commandments, the laws and statutes? No, there's so much work to be done. Notice it says in the second verse, do not be conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind, so that you prove what is that good and well-pleasing and perfect desire of the Almighty One. For I say, through the favor which has been given to me, to everyone who is among you, not to think of himself more highly than he should think, but to think soberly, as the Almighty One has given to each a measure of belief. For as we have many members in one body, but all members do not have the same function, so we, the many, are one body in Messiah, and members, each one of one another. Yashar'al, O Yashar'al, take these words serious. Let the life in them stir within us. One body. And if a sibling or a blood relative does not fit the description of a set-apart family member, we will find ourselves at times purging them from our presence or coming away from them. Trust and believe, for out of discipline we will learn how to identify our true set-apart family. Remember these words, O Yashar'al. Come, as I take you to these words. In John 13, verse 34 and 35. John 13, 34 and 35 says, a renewed command I give to you, that you love one another as I have loved you, that you also love one another. By this shall all know that you are my taught ones, if you have love for one another. Now, let me take you, that was John 13, 34 and 35. Now flip over or turn over or scroll over to John 15, verses 11 through 18. John 15, verses 11 through 18 reads, these words I have spoken to you so that my joy might be in you and that your joy might be complete. This is my command, that you love one another as I have loved you. Now let me pause for a minute. Notice how he said, as I have loved you. When we look at how the Almighty Father loves us, let's look at everything that is written in scriptures that the Almighty Father has done. From giving us life to our birth, to our death, he has destroyed nations for his children's sake. He has destroyed children and families. If you doubt that, I mentioned in Numbers, when Dathan, Abiram, and Korah were swallowed up, they were swallowed up along with their children, their entire household. He did these things to preserve the life. He destroyed cities, Sodom and Gomorrah, for the love that he had for his children, to preserve and demonstrate that he is a just Almighty One. He laid his life down for us. His word laid down in the sacrifice. Now, did that mean Yahuwah stopped living? No, not at all. It means his word that was manifest before us. That manifestation as Yahusha was sacrificed and resurrected for us. See, many of us don't understand the fullness of the word death and life. Do you know that once we were created, my brothers and sisters, we will never totally die? But the question remains of where and what happens. You see, these earthen vessels will perish, whether it be a physical death, but the spirit goes to the bosom of Abraham until resurrection day, and we sleep. As far as the set-apart family is concerned, those who are not part of the set-apart family will burn in a fiery place, commonly known as hell, until judgment day. My brothers and sisters, the love that he wants us to have that same love. And he commands us to have that same love. But there's that warm fuzzy, there's that joyous love, and there's that severe love that is necessary to preserve life and to ensure life. It says, no one has greater love than this, than one should lay down his life for his friends. My brothers and sisters, do not be deceived by somebody throwing this scripture at you and say, you're going to lay your life down for all of them? You're going to do it? You're going to do it? There are situations and circumstances that will require us to do such. And there are situations and circumstances that will not. We must know the full love of the Almighty Father, from the warm fuzzy to the severe and sincere. It says, you are my friends if you do whatever I command. See? What he commanded, when he commanded. It's not throwing that black and white and telling everybody, lay your life down for me, lay your life down. Did Noah lay his life down? And his family said, no, everybody else can get on the boat. We'll just lay down. Did Lot lay his life down? And we can go throughout scriptures, my brothers and sisters. There's a time to sacrifice your life for a friend, and there's a time to stand firm and obey what the Almighty Father is saying to you. He says, no longer do I call you servants, for a servant does not know what his master is doing. But I have called you friends, for all teachings which I heard from my Father, I've made known to you. You did not choose me, but I chose you and appointed you that you should go and bear fruit, and that your fruit should remain, so that whatever you ask the Father in my name, he might give you. These words I command you so that you love one another. If the world hates you, you know that it hated me before it hated you. Though the literal of this passage is the Mashiach talking to his taught ones, the spiritual, it goes beyond the literal. He's speaking to us as well, O Yashar'al. True set-apart family will become clear. Do you think there will be a final exodus? Do you think there will be 144,000, 12,000 from each of the 12 tribes of Yashar'al? Do you think there will be a great multitude which no man can number, as mentioned in the 7th chapter of Revelation? Without things becoming clear as to who is indeed our set-apart family. Yashar'al, Yashar'al, there is much work to be done. Let us learn how to focus. I mention this passage often, and I am compelled to present it again. Proverbs 4:18 through 27. We must seek to be focused, my brothers and sisters. We must seek to learn and discern the desires from the Almighty Yahuah. Consider Proverbs 4:18 through 27. As I read this, it says, but the path of the righteous is like the light of dawn. So in light, we're able to see, that shines ever brighter unto the perfect day. The way of the wrong is like darkness. They do not know at what they stumble. My son, listen to my words, incline your ear to my sayings. Let them not depart from your eyes. Guard them in the midst of your heart. For they are the life of those who find them, and healing to all their flesh. Watch over your heart with all diligence, for out of it are the sources of light. This is where discerning what is being said. See, man have tampered with the scriptures. So we see the word heart, and you'll see a verse that say the heart is deceitfully wicked. This heart here is talking about the spirit of a man. The heart that's deceitfully wicked is talking about the brain, the cognitive factors that can be programmed, trained, influenced. This is talking about watch over your spirit with all diligence. For our spirit is joined with the Almighty Father through Yahushua Mashiach, which we find the sources of life. Turn away from you a crooked mouth and put perverse lips far from you. Many are disregarding that. Many are bearing false witness. Do you know when we argue and debate and we know we're wrong, as perverse lips, crooked mouth. We have a responsibility, O Yashar'al, to be as iron sharpen iron, to vet, to examine, to seek out the everlasting word of the Almighty Father, to draw closer to one another. It says, let your eyes look forward, and your eyelids look straight before you. Consider the path of your feet, and all the ways are established. Do not turn to the right or the left. Turn your foot away from evil. What this is saying is, don't think that it's a black and white rule, my brothers and sisters, that if you go left, you'll always be right. If you go right, you'll always be right. No. Focus on Yahuah, his living guidance, his living directions, his discipline, his refinement. And he will direct our footsteps. Remember, there will be those blind and delusional because of their positions of belief. Consider these words and avoid unfruitful debates and arguments. In other words, speak what you believe to be true. Study to make sure what you believe passes the test of set apartness. Do not waste time going back and forth with someone who is locked into a position of belief that is incorrect. Hear these words, O Yashar'al, as I read them, or you can come and read them with me. John 12:40 said, he has blinded their eyes and hardened their heart so that they should not see with their eyes and understand with their heart and turn, and I shall heal them. He blinded them, my brothers and sisters, because even if they saw, they're abused. They'll be like ravaging pigs, many people, if they don't have the intent to worship and obey the Almighty Father. If they have that intent, healing is possible. 2 Corinthians, my brothers and sisters. 2 Corinthians chapter 4, verse 3 through 6. Come with me there as I continue. Keep in mind, my brothers and sisters, these are things that must be imparted, shared, demonstrated among brothers and sisters as we meet family. It says, and indeed, if our good news has been veiled, it has been veiled in those who are perishing, in whom the mighty one of this age has blinded the minds of the unbelieving, so that the enlightening of the good news of the esteem of Messiah, who is the likeness of the Almighty One, does not shine on them. For they are in darkness, my brothers and sisters. Delusion comes, they are blinded because they have chosen to step away from the light. For the Almighty Father, it is written, is the Father of lights. And if they choose to step away from the light, then darkness works with them and in them. It says, for we do not proclaim ourselves, but Messiah Yahushua, the Master, and ourselves your servants for the sake of Yahushua. For the Almighty One who said, let light shine out of darkness. In other words, it is through the power and might of the Almighty Father. It is through his light that will pierce through the darkness, bringing truth of how we to treat each other as family, how we to treat one another, how we are to demonstrate the love that the Almighty Father has for us. It's in the one who has shown in our hearts for the enlightening of the knowledge of the esteem of the Almighty One in the face of Yahushua Messiah. Yashar'al, O Yashar'al. There is so much work to be done. Trust and believe there are means and ways to identify true set-apart family. When the scriptures talk about judgment begins at the house of Yahuah, it has begun. Come away from the arguing. Come away from those who are trying to preserve their egos or maintain their leadership positions. Discern what the Almighty Father is saying. Remember these passages and seek to discern the life in them as well, as I read them to you, my brothers and sisters. As I continue, John 6:43 and 44 and 45. I speak of 6:44 often, but I will read John 6:43 to 45. Then Yahushua answered and said to them, do not grumble with one another. Don't grumble. What is grumbling? Making noise, unfruitful arguments, unfruitful debates. Let our conversations be working towards the good of set apartness, towards the obedience to the Almighty Father. He said, no one is able to come to me unless the Father who sent me draws him. Come to him unless the Father who sent him draws him. He said, and I shall raise him up in the last day. It has been written in the prophets, and they shall all be taught by Yahuah. Everyone then who has heard from the Father and learned comes from me. What other words can we speak, save the words that we know, that we have been taught, that have been refined as a result of studying, praying, growing in maturity and set apartness? Yashar'al, O Yashar'al, the Almighty Yahuah. We don't like to hear about discipline, and some may think I speak of it too much. What are your expectations? Do we not like better situations, better conditions, better circumstances? Well, to reach better, it requires yielding to discipline. And who can give us better other than the Almighty Father Yahuah? For the Almighty Yahuah will discipline his children, whether it is in this life or upon resurrection. Consider these words and seek to discern their meaning. Revelation 3:19 say, for as many as it says, as many as I love, I reprove and discipline. So be ardent and repent. Hebrews 12th chapter. I encourage you to read it verse by verse, but I have extracted the 11th verse because I want you to hear these words. And indeed, no discipline seemed pleasant at the time, but grievous, but afterwards it yields the peaceable fruit of righteousness to those who have been trained by it. Now let me read a passage that may be widely misunderstood or not understood at all. But it is part of the realities of the scriptures and the words that have been manifest before us as a result of Yahuwah's command. 1 Corinthians 5:1-5 reads, it's commonly reported that there is whoring among you, and such whoring as it is not even named among the nations, so as one to have his father's wife. And you have been puffed up and did not rather mourn, so that he who has done this deed be removed from you. And I indeed, as absent in the body but present in the spirit, have already judged the one who did this as though I was present. You see, Shalum experienced discernment. Shalum experienced, even though he was absent, it was made known what was going on. He said, in the name of our Master Yahushua Messiah, when you are gathered together in my spirit with the power of our Master Yahushua, deliver such a one to Satan for the destruction of the flesh, in order that his spirit may be saved in the day of Master Yahushua. You see, my brothers and sisters, some people, one, don't realize. Let me reread that. That was 1 Corinthians 5:5. Some people don't realize when we purge someone from our midst that is doing wickedness, the fruit of their wickedness will cause them to be unhappy, for they grieve the spirit of Yahuwah. The spirit of their grief will bring their bodies to a point that leads to death, that could lead and may lead to death. and some will repent and be restored into the fellowship. Some may not repent until they're on their dying bed or with their last breath. And then some will rise up at resurrection and realize that they were indeed a child of Yahuah. They were just on milk too much. They stumbled. They fell. We must understand those who the Almighty Father draws to him, he don't slip and let you go. We must understand, O Yashar'al, the members of this family, the members of this body. It would be wise to brace for strong emotional situations that are necessary for identifying and choosing who to be with versus without. There will be a final exodus, Yashar'al. Step wisely, my brothers and sisters. Some will no longer be among us due to unwise decision. Let me say this to you, O Yashar'al, as I gradually come towards an end. Do you want to identify your family? Do you want to live close to your family? Are you trying to hold on to some bad habits you don't want your family member to see? Soon and very soon, we will understand the importance of being together as a nation, moving closer to one another. It's not going to happen overnight, but the call is coming out. Move closer together, Yashar'al, move closer. In the name of Yahushua, I say to you, O Yashar'al, hear the call to move closer to one another and gradually start moving in the direction that the Spirit of the Almighty Father is drawing you. Lest you find yourselves in a regrettable position. And know this, my brothers and sisters, just as the Almighty Father did in days of old, he brought Yashar'al together in many times, and he scattered us in many times. But he offered healing. And it is through the power and might of his word that was manifest. It is through the sacrifice, the resurrection. It is through the atoning blood of Yahushua, his word. It is through his set-apart spirit that he works in us, through us. And we see all manner of life. Yashar'al, Yashar'al. The Almighty Father does not change. I've shared this and I am compelled to share it again in this message. Malachi 3:6 reads, "For I am Yahuah, I shall not change, and you, O sons of Yaakov, shall not come to an end." We must ask ourselves, what is the face of the power that preserved Yaakov to this day? And what is the face and details in the process of the power of the Almighty Father that preserve us stepping into these final days? Trust and believe, for it is said it's impossible to please him without belief. Trust and believe, O Yashar'al, that he does not change. James 1:17 says, every good gift and every perfect gift is from above, coming down from the Father of lights, with whom there is no change nor shadow of turning. Yashar'al, O Yashar'al, keep these words in mind and avoid those who paint false narratives. You see, there are those who want to grow communities and fellowships by appeasing you, by saying things to you to make you feel good, to not challenge you. Hear these words. It's time for us to look at the face of what is written. Ask ourselves, what are our expectations? What are the characteristics of the things we see as it relates to the scripture, as it is contrast to the scriptures that are made alive? Hear these words, O Yashar'al. Matthew 5:43-48. They read this. You heard that it was said, you shall love your neighbor and hate your enemy. But I say to you, love your enemies Bless those cursing you. Do good to those hating you, and pray for those insulting you and persecuting you, so that you become sons of your Father in the heavens. When he say this, my brothers and sisters, love is doing what's best, what is laid out by the instructions of the Almighty Father. Purging the enemy, sometimes that's love. Embracing the enemy, sometimes out of love, that enemy may have been unlearned and unmilked, deceived by erroneous teachings, not raised correctly. And you might discover that that enemy is indeed your brother. So we must seek to keep balance to the scriptures to understand what it's talking about. Know that it says Yahuah hates Esau. He hates wickedness. So do you think he's going to say he hates wickedness and then tell you, but you love wickedness? No, he say love your enemy. There are some enemies that are unlearned, that are immature, that are still babes. So to keep the scriptures balanced, we must know Yahuah never changes. And I read where it says he changes not. So he hates wickedness. He hates sin. Blessing those cursing you could be giving somebody food. Though they curse you, you still gave them food. You may have still given them shelter. Because out of that love, you might find that that person, again, was a babe, unlearned, deceived. And out of your love, you draw that person. But there are those whom we must come away from. We must know when things are applicable. As we read, it says, pray for those insulting you and persecuting you, so that you become sons of your Father in the heavens, because he makes the sun rise on the wicked and on the good, and send rain on the righteous and on the unrighteous. Don't fall for the false narrative. One big narrative in these end days is that we're going to all be gathered and we won't witness the tribulation. We all going to be in, nobody's going to be left behind, because they're taking a verse and they're disregarding the verse that said there will be martyrs for Yahusha's name. They're disregarding the verse that says some will fall away. They disregard the verse that says we will be betrayed. They don't ask, what does that look like? You see, though these earthen vessels will perish, go back to the dirt, as it is written, our spirit, we who are set apart family that face physical death, will sleep until resurrection day. It says, for if you love those loving you, what reward have you? Are the tax collectors not doing the same too? And if you greet your brothers only, what do you do more than others? Are the tax collectors not doing so too? Therefore, be perfect as your Father in the heavens is perfect. Perfect. My brothers and sisters. Are you my brother? Are you my sister? Do we know how long we will be alive? Do we know how much time we have to breathe another breath? Are we taking one another for granted? Do we know how to reach out to one another? Reach out. Have conversation. Discover that true love is a beautiful thing. True love, a love as a brother, a love as a sister, the love that the Father has for us is a wonderful thing. Let us press into it and get past the friction by getting under the blood of the Lamb and asking for forgiveness when we know what we're doing is wrong, when we're doing something wrong, when we stumble and fall. Let the ego be buried and let us rise up by the power and might of the Spirit of Yahuah coming to us in Yahusha's name, through the power and might of atonement. My family, my brothers and sisters, do you love me? Do I love you? Are we giving each other the opportunity to demonstrate that? That doesn't mean take advantage of one another. It means draw closer to one another as prescribed and ordered by the Almighty Father. Be advised, my brothers and sisters. In the midst of all end time uncertainty and confusion, we will witness an emergence of 144,000, 12,000 from each of the 12 tribes of Yashar'al as written in Revelation 7 chapter. And we will witness a great multitude mentioned in Revelation 7 chapter. And we must ask ourselves, what are the characteristics of such a feat coming together? What are our expectations and what are we willing to yield to demonstrate to the world that we are family, my brothers and sisters, set apart by the power and might of the Almighty Father through Yahushua Mashiach, His Word, no Trinity, prepared to experience meeting family like never anticipated, prepared to learn how to vet, what questions to ask, how to open our eyes and ears, how to begin to discern the brother, the sister, the brothers, the sisters, who are indeed joined together. Together, we are the family of Yahuah, the set-apart children of Yahuah. In the name of Yahusha, our sovereign, our king, we are the set-apart nation of Yashar'al, and we will recognize one another, and we will come together to fulfill what is promised. The final exodus is not a maybe or if, my brothers and sisters. Meeting family. Yashar'al, my brothers and sisters. Let us know true set-apart family. Let us begin to ask the questions that bring us and bind us closer to one another, proving that we are following the will and the guidance from the Almighty Father, proving what is acceptable to Him. Yashar'al, Yashar'al. One of my strongest prayers is that we each get to discern the voice of the Spirit of Yahuah sent in Yahusha's name clearly and find ourselves being able to better walk in His guidance, in His living Torah, His living instructions. Stay tuned, O Yashar'al, for soon the time will come where we will seek to worship and obey Him in fellowship, where we get an endless instruction that just feeds us and refreshes us and makes us anew each day. If we're not experiencing that, something is missing. Oh, family, let us be able to identify that. Be encouraged. Hold your head up. This is all real. Begin to identify what measures up to the expectations that's written in scriptures as they are made alive. Do not be deceived. On that note, meeting family. Meeting family is a wonderful thing. Step into it, my brothers and sisters. Step away from the weight of the misconceptions of anything outside of the set-apart family of Yahuah. On that note, I say to you, Shalum, my brother, my sister, my family. Shalom.